It would seem like the conversations around zoning is going state level now, subnational, so to speak, with the IMO Charter of Equity, which, according to Chief Emmanuel Iwanyao, started as far back as 1990 and produced two governors in 1993, 1999, and on like that. But along the line, according to him, politicians destroyed it. Those were his words on Politics Today last week. But let's take this further now, see how far this is being taken by indigenes of Imo State with this conversation. Begin with Fidel Onyeneke, who is a special advisor, Imo Orientation Agency on the side of government, as well as Ihejirika Emeka, who is media director at an Achono campaign organization of the Labour Party. He is also a legal practitioner. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us this morning. Let's begin with you, Mr. Onyeneke. Exactly how is government taking it? On the one hand, the Elders Council have adopted a second term for the governor. On the other hand, there are people, several people opposing that opposition, including Chief Emmanuel Iwanyao, who is saying it's the turn of the Owerri zone. Exactly how is government receiving this? Mr. Onyeneke, that is for you.
Yeah,
we can hear you. Please go ahead.
He said that it's a pleasure being here today. People of Imo State and the entire Southeast. Is this Charter of Equity as responded and they recently approved by very highly regarded citizens of integrity. I'm talking of the Imo Elders Council. And this charter has gone a long way in ensuring that the agitation.
Well, while
the expectation of people are.
Well, Mr. Onyeneke, we are having a difficulty getting a sustainable conversation from you because it seems to be going on and off. But let's see if we have Mr. Ihejirika Emeka with us here. Well, what's the position of you, your group, and your party on this Imo Charter of Equity?
Thank you to be here. First of all, the Imo Charter of Equity evolved properly in the so-called Imo Charter of Equity because in 1999, a group of PDP elders, in 1999 to be precise, a group of PDP elders came together and said that there are three zones. The zones are Imo North or Kigwe Zone, Imo West or Olu Zone, and Imo East or Owerri Zone. So Imo North or Kigwe Zone has the smallest local government. That's smallest number of local government. That's 6 local government. Imo West or Olu Zone, where the present governor comes from, have 12 local government. And the Imo East, that's Owerri Zone, has 9 local government, and the capital is situated there. So they came together, they said, that's a PDP arrangement. Because PDP was the dominant party in Imo State then. They were the ones about to get into power because everybody who was anybody in 1999 was in PDP. So they said, let's start with Olu Zone, which has a local government. That was why the man who was poised to be the PDP candidate, who is from Imo East, that is Owerri Zone, conceded that ticket to former Governor Achiku Demwa, who is from Imo West. Now, Achiku Demwa now picked his running mate from Imo North, which is Okigwe Zone. Now, it worked for PDP until 2011, when, due to their internal crisis, they didn't have a candidate, and somebody from Okigwe Zone is Imo North, now picked the ticket from another party, that's the PPA, that is former Governor Ikedi Ohakim. Now, when he picked the ticket, he did 4 years, until 2011, when he was about to complete the second term, he later joined PDP. I think about a year after winning under PPA, he defected to PDP. But after doing 4 years, the Olu zone, with Rochas Okorocha as their candidate in Abgaden, collected it with the active connivance of Owerri zone. How? In that election in 2011, the 9 local governments in Owerri zone voted for somebody from Olu zone. So that truncated that charter of equity. He who must come to equity must come with clean hands. What the PDP elders decided was that if a zone has to do their turn, they will do 8 years. Olu did, under Governor Udemwa, they did 8 years. Okigwe zone, when it comes, because they have the smallest number of local governments, 6 local governments, they only did 4 years until Owerri zone connived with Olu to take it back and give it to Rochas. Because Rochas won in the 9 local governments in Owerri zone. So what we are saying is, in as much as it's desirable to give every component zone in the state a chance to put forward their best, there is still competence, capacity, and the ability to deliver the goods as factors to be considered in choosing people. Why this zoning issue is coming up is because of the incompetence of the present government, especially in terms of service delivery, security, and economic development. They've failed totally, and that is why the clamor now. So, no right-thinking person will tell Olu zone or Imo West to go for another 4 years, making it 24 years, while Okigwe zone, whose turn was truncated after only 4 years, has not even done any. They've only done 4 years. So that is my take on the agitation. But there are other aspects that are supposed to be considered. Before we go to those other considerations, Mr. Hejirika, I mean, it seems that, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems that you have contradicted yourself in the last few statements that you made. On the one hand, you're saying that competence should play a major role. But on the other hand, you're saying that anyone from Olu shouldn't be considered for the next 4 years by any right-thinking person. Exactly what are you saying? Exactly what I'm saying is that competence, capacity, and the ability to deliver the dividends of democracy to the people of Imo State are factors to be considered. But that does not mean... what if that's a consideration, those factors that you talked about, competence and all of it, what if it can only be seen by the people of Imo State from any candidate from Olu zone alone? Yes. You see, competence, all the factors I mentioned now, resides in people in all these zones I've mentioned, all the 3 component zones. You have extremely capable people in all the zones. For example, today in Okigwe zone, which has 6 local governments, you have extremely competent people, including Senator Atana Chono, the Labour Party candidate. Now, there are 3 major political parties in Imo State today. The APC are fielding the incumbent governor who is from Olu zone. They've done 20 years already. 20. Senator Sam Anyango is holding the PDP flag. They've done, I think, 2.5 years already, because we are still counting the Enwerem and the Ihedioha combined. And in that zone is Owerri zone, is the most urbanized zone. Every major infrastructure, every seat of higher learning is situated in that zone.
Just a quick one,
And
Mr.
then you have
Hejurika. Just a second. Do you see any value, political or otherwise, for equity, fairness, whatever considerations? Do you see any value in the conversations around the Imo Charter of Equity?
Yeah, there are. I don't know what you mean by value, but if it is for the sake of political stability, for the sake of economic development, then there might be some value. There are always value in such conversations. There are always value. But what we are trying to say is that it should be to address the injustice of the past. For example,
Sir, the conversation has suddenly gone stuck. But let's see if Mr. Onyeneke is with us. Mr. Onyeneke, are you with us now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm totally with you.
All right, please go ahead. I mean, you wanted to respond to a question earlier as to this, in spite of with all of this opposition coming, at the heel of the sanctioning or approval for a second time by the Imo Elders Council, how is the government taking the opposition coming from left, right, and center? Go ahead, please.
Now, first of all, before I come to the first time in the history of Imo that we are coming out, that our elders and everybody come out with a decision that is being applauded by everybody, which we call the Imo Charter of Equity. Prior to this,
well, we'll most certainly having some difficulty
people have been
with that one.
away, especially as it concerns the gubernatorial elections.
Go ahead, Mr. Onyeneke. All right. Is Mr. Hejurika back with us now? Okay. Well, this conversation will seem like it's not just going to go away, but the fact that we are unable to get a consensus, even from the people within one state or 5 in the southeast region of the country, is a little bit of a concern.
Well, it's politics. You rarely find people agreeing, especially when you have 18 political parties. It's literally 18 different opinions. But it's interesting when you do like a backtrack to how this whole thing started. And I'm glad that, he gave an insight into how Imo North, which is Okigwe, has 6 local government areas. Imo West, which is Olu, 12 local government areas. And Imo East, which is called Owerri, has 9 local government areas. And, from the figures, if you were to go by the zoning, the Imo West has done 20 years in all, according to him. Imo North, 4 years, and I think Imo East, 2.5 years, and the truncations that happen. So it's interesting when these conversations come into play, and then you have to put in the question of competence as well. And I'm glad you pressed home that point, what weights these issues have. But let's go back to Mr. Fidel Onyeneke and hope that the internet would cooperate this time around.
The internet will not zone him out.
Exactly. Mr. Onyeneke, can you hear us? It doesn't look like he can. And okay, if you can you respond, please? Okay, not to worry. We'll work on that.
There's a lot to be done. This is the Charter of Equity, and
so we lost the most part of what you said, and it's a bit tricky for people to at least get your response. We only get them in bits and pieces, so it's hard to piece together. So maybe we'll try to work on that so we can get proper value from this conversation.
Let me say this. It's important to stress that what informed even the decision of the Elders Council to come out with this Charter of Equity is just to ensure that there is peace, unity, and progress in Imo State. And I thank God that it's coming at a time when we have an incumbent governor who has really succeeded in making sure that Imo has moved fast forward. Apart from the infrastructural development and other activities other projects embarked upon by the governor of Imo State, His Excellency, Distinguished Senator Hope Uzodinma. He has succeeded in also ensuring that there is this, running this all-inclusive government, where everybody, irrespective of where you come from and so on, is carried along. Apparently, an indication that the governor is determined, more than every other person, of course, past administrations, to ensure that all sections of this country.
Now that we have you clearly, Mr. Onyeneke, at least we can use the audio. I'd like you to speak to the figures that Mr. Ejirika put out, that Olu has done 20 years, Okigwe 4 years, and I think Owerri 2.5 years. In terms of equity, fairness and justice, would you say it is fair to have Olu continue, do an extra 4 years and have 24 compared to what others have, which is 4 years and 2.5 years? Does that align with equity, fairness and justice for you?
Let me tell you why there shouldn't be anything wrong with that. I am saying this because in the past, like I explained, we never had any clear-cut decision that there must be a document called Charter of Equity. People have been speculating, trying to find a way of ensuring that different parts of the state power rotates from one place to the other. But now that the elders of the state have come out with this particular decision, it is only fair and that we are lucky, even as Imo citizens, to have an incumbent who is working very hard, who is performing, who has already laid foundation for the development of this state through his projects, apart from.
There goes the connection yet again. Mr. Onyeneke, if you can hear me. Okay, we're having difficulty getting across to you. Looks like this is one of those mornings. But if you can hear me, just respond to this one. So at the national level...
And so on, like close at the back of all. He is running an all-inclusive. That is why I said he is there. And it is now the elders say that the thing that has, anything that has, must make 8 years.
Okay. Oh dear. I mean, we just have to find a way around this. Mr. Onyeneke, we're not getting full value for what you're saying. We're losing you here and there, and it's very tricky. But a question I would like to... Please hold on for a moment, Mr. Onyeneke, if we can just get him to log out of the connection and come back in. Maybe we'll have, some sort of fidelity with that connection so we can get a good conversation. But it's quite interesting because what we saw play out in the build-up to the presidential election was a call for equity, fairness and justice, particularly for the southeast region of the country, and the clamor was quite loud. And you would understand, perhaps that was part of the reason we saw the southeast vote the way it voted, literally of 90% for the candidate of the Labour Party across the states. But when it trickles down now to state politics, it's quite interesting then the conversation that plays out. And it just shows how politics can be very dynamic. But the good thing is that the people have the decision to make at the end of the day. Come November, it's the people of Imo that will take a look at all of these factors, from the zoning, competence, and all of that, the pedigree of the candidate, and then make a decision about that. But we have Mr. Ejirika back with us, and I'm interested in hearing your thoughts about the Owerri zone, because I know your candidate naturally is from Okigwe, so you'd speak for him. Okigwe has done 4 years. But you said earlier on that the Owerri zone has done even less than 4 years. Am I correct? So why not speak for that zone, if I got you correctly?
No. He who must come to equity must come with clean hands. Look at what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the Charter of Equity, which is an unwritten gentleman agreement.
Okay.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go on.
The Charter of Equity, which is an unwritten gentleman agreement between those three zones, infers that any zone that has to do their turn must do 8 years. 8 years, not 4 years. Now, Olu zone did theirs from 1999 to 2007. Okigwe zone continued because it was their turn. Now they did 4 years. After 4 years, Rochas Okorocha from Olu Zone now collected it back with the active support of Owerri Zone. Collected it back with the active support of Owerri Zone. And since then, it has never left Olu Zone, except the brief 7 months period by Emeki Hedioha. Now, if we want to kickstart, yes, we want to kickstart that Charter of Equity, that unwritten gentleman agreement, we are okay with it. But it must start from Okigwe Zone, 4 years. It must start from Okigwe Zone, 4 years. It must not start from Olu Zone, that has taken 20 years. It must start from Okigwe Zone, where it stopped last. So that is the argument.
Right. Let me just follow up with this one.
Yes,
if you can hear me.
Kickstarting it.
Mr.
It addresses some.
Right, if you can hear me, let me just ask you then that, I mean, looking at this, the way things are being zoned, I wonder then why you are big on a gentleman agreement, which you said was agreed within the PDP. Why is it something then, because you're for the Labour Party, we saw how the Southeast voted during the presidential elections, for example, overwhelmingly for the Labour Party, and it was like, okay, out with the old, in with the new. So why still try to build something on a gentleman's agreement, which was at least agreed upon within the PDP? Isn't that contradictory to what the Labour Party stands for?
No. I didn't get your question on the Labour Party angle.
Okay. You said that this agreement was done within the PDP, and you said that, everyone, the who is who at that time was in the PDP, so there was that agreement within the PDP. But you are now in the Labour Party, you have a candidate in the Labour Party, and what the Labour Party stands for essentially is sort of a change, a breath of fresh air, out with the old, in with the new. So why still rely on an agreement which was forged in the PDP era?
That's what I'm saying now. You see, they are the people who are bringing up this Charter of Equity. Labour Party is totally for competence, but Labour Party is still for justice and equity. Labour Party still recognizes that competence resides in everywhere in this world. There are very competent people. But then the Labour Party still recognizes that certain things will have to be addressed. You know, people think that we voted for Labour Party in the Southeast because P2B is an Igbo man. No, that's not true. If you bring somebody who is not competent, I'll tell you, the person will even start failing from the Southeast. That's how we do. We go for competent people. We see far politically. We know somebody who will serve the people. Now, this Imo Charter of Equity we are talking of now, we are not the people bringing it up. It is primarily the PDP, same PDP people who are bringing it up. But it's an idea they are bringing it up, idea from the past. If there are certain aspects from an idea from the past that is good, then we concur with it. We will not throw away the baby with the bathwater. No. That is why we are saying that if that Charter of Equity has to be respected, then we have to start from where it stopped. And where it stopped is from Okigwe Zone. That was why, that was when Hakim, who would have done his other 4 years at the stretch, and we know that Okigwe is done with, was truncated. And the Owerri Zone handed it over to Olo, and it has never left that place except for 8 months that Emeki Hedioha from Owerri Zone stayed. So there's no contradiction here. And it's not, these questions you're asking are not a yes or no question. Because there are aspects of this and there are aspects of that here. If you watch the Labour Party's primary, you will see that there were about 14 or 15 candidates. Out of these 15 candidates, 2 were from Okigwe Zone, 2. 1 from Olu Zone, and the rest were from Owerri Zone. And when the results came out, Senator Atan Achono defeated everybody by 13 votes. So Labour Party, being a party of fairness and justice, threw it open to everybody. Because they know that the final decision does not rest with the party.
If you can hear me, the question will be, which of the primaries are you talking about? Because as far as we know, the Labour Party had more than one primaries that produced different candidates. But let's go over to Abuja. My colleagues have questions for you as well. It's over to you guys now.
Well, we're waiting to see which one of the primaries, as you pointed out, will eventually be recognized at the end of the day. But clearly, Mr. Ihejirika is representing the Atan Achono campaign organization. And certainly, it does appear that you have some issues with this Imo Charter of Equity. You're saying that it can work pari passu, but it appears that you want it to, be held in abeyance for now, pending when, all of the other zones are able to complete, or at least the other two zones are yet to do 8 years each, do theirs. Is that what you're suggesting?
You see, don't put certain words into my mouth, which I might not have meant. But look at what I'm saying. The Charter of Equity is a blast from the past. It was not conceived in the present. It was conceived in 1999. Now, that Charter of Equity was truncated in 2011 when Owerri Zone, who are supposed to support Okigwe Zone to complete their zone, handed it over to Olu Zone. It has never left Olu Zone until 8 months. That Emeki Hedioha from Owerri Zone did before the Supreme Court now gave it back to Olu Zone. Now, what we are saying is that if this Charter of Equity, we are not the one that resurrected it. It's the PDP people that resurrected it. They are the ones who formulated it in 1999. They are the ones who are resurrecting it now. If this Charter of Equity has to be kick-started, it must start from where it stopped. It must be kick-started from where it stopped. That is 2011. When Ikedio Hakim, who is from Okigwe Zone, the smallest zone with 6 local governments, this other one has 9, this other one has 12. So you don't take away a child's toy because that child is small. No, you must give everybody that fairness. That is what we've been complaining in the country. And then it should not happen here. And then, well, that's equity and fairness, as the PDP elders, rightly or wrongly, foresaw and then implemented until it was truncated in 2011. We are not, like I said, we are not the ones who are bringing it up. The PDP people are bringing it up. And if every other person would agree to it, if every other person would agree to it, then it has to start where it stopped. It should not be rejigged to suit a particular zone. I mean, the least developed zone in this state is Okigwe Zone. Okigwe Zone is the least. It doesn't even have one single higher institution. So what are we talking of? So you see, all these things has to be taken holistically.
I take it that your candidate, the candidate whom you're supporting, is from Okigwe. Is that correct?
Yes, he is. Okay. Yes, he is.
So everybody will try and work out this particular program or this particular charter to suit their own purpose. Is that what you're saying?
Well, we are not. If you watch Labour Party is a fair-minded organization, political party. We are not saying this thing. You see, if you've been following the trend of what I've been trying to explain, you will see that there are points and that there are merits, total merit in what I've just said. We are not the ones resurrecting the Charter of Equity. We are not the ones.
Indeed, but you said that the Charter of Equity, was in existence in 1999, and that's when almost everybody was in the same political party at that particular time. Isn't that correct?
No, I said the who is who in Imo politics. The giants were in PDP.
And now it's the PDP that's trying to bring this back. But let's see if we can bring in your colleague, Mr. Oyeneke. Mr. Oyeneke, you've heard that I'm sure you've been following the conversation so far, and Emeka has said that it is the PDP that's trying to resurrect this charter. You are of the APC, if I'm correct. Is that okay with you, working by the charter, or would you rather stick to the issues of competence?
In the first place, we've never had anything like emo of equity in the past. People were not saying it. Some people had in mind that praying for such a startup, but it was never formalized. This is the first time in the history of Imo State that elders have come together and brought out this document, which I believe will solve the problems of power sharing in this state called Imo. And above all, why everybody must comment this present charter of equity, this one as expounded by the Elders Council, is the fact that it will now give an opportunity for easy sharing of power to different places. Let me tell you, if you don't use this charter of equity and you allow people to be struggling for position, there will still be victory. Remember that politics is a game of slumber. I am happy my colleague mentioned that Olu has 12 local government areas, over 9 or 6. This simply means that if you don't use this charter of equity, Olu will continue to dominate. So if you want good things for Imo people, if you want fairness, if you want equity, this is the time to do it. So that immediately the incumbent governor who has already done for his complete 8 years, definitely power will move to away. And that time will represent the next 8 years. If you go to Okizo, but if you allow somebody to be struggling and struggling, there will be threat to peace.
Mr. Yeneke, if I may come in here, Mr. Yeneke, what he says specifically is that if this charter must be used again, then it should go back to where it started from, where it was stopped before, and that is the Okigwe zone. You don't think that's the most equitable thing to do?
No. Since we never had any formal charter of equity, we are now commencing it. It is starting with this charter of equity that has been formalized now by the Imo Elders Council. And the common sense and, of course, simple logic, and, of course, whatever you view from every angle, it requires the incumbent governor who is already in office and, of course, doing well, is satisfying the yearnings and aspirations of Imo people. To complete, after completing his 4 years, to complete the next 4 years, so that the equity has already started. If this charter had come earlier before now, that would have been a different thing. So the point I'm making is that you cannot see somebody who is already performing, who has done well, and who is being endorsed by different people. I'm talking of distinguished Senator Hope Uzodinma, and you now want to tell him to step out because of to satisfy a particular group.
All right, thank you, Mr. Yeneke.
And let me stress here.
All right, Mr. Yeneke, thank you. I'll just hand you back to my colleagues in Lagos, Ayo, and go ahead, Ayo.
Well, thank you. But quick question from Kyle before we sign off.
Yes, I was just going to quickly reference, the point which was made by Chief Nwanyao during that interview regarding the charter. And for Mr. Ihejirika, you said that this was resurrected by the PDP, but Chief Nwanyao speaks to that effect that, in fact, nominating someone from Olu is against that equity, that it should be someone from Owerri.
I was about to come to that. Now, I wanted to make reference to that before he stopped me. I want to say that Chief Emmanuel Iwanya, we highly respected Nigerian African, a man of integrity, couldn't have been following his post and so on. He made it very clear that this is the thought of Oluzo. The incumbent governor should complete his 8 years before the governorship.
Well, this question is for Mr. Ihejirika. Mr. Onyeneke, it's not fair to actually jump in like that, if you can hear me. It's actually for Mr. Ihejirika. I understand that you have a response to that, but let's hear Mr. Ihejirika out first, quickly, as we wind down.
Okay, let me say something. My brother there, my elder brother there, Chief Onyeneke, has been in politics here for a very long time. He has held several offices. He knows perfectly well what I'm talking about. That there was an agreement, a gentleman agreement between the PDP and now he's talking of the elder. Who are the elders? These are APC elders that endorse the governor.
No.
Wait, let me finish, sir. Let me finish, sir. Then let us go on, please. You're eating into my time, sir. Please. Sir, please now. Please, I didn't interrupt you. Why don't you allow me to finish?
Mr. Ihejirika land, so we can get value in this conversation. Mr. Onyeneke, just a moment. Mr. Ihejirika, go on. We're winding down in about a minute now.
This is APC elders that endorse the governor. And Chief Iwanya will never Chief Iwanya will never say the governor should start. And meanwhile, he said the governor performed. This is the era where there is most insecurity in Imo State. And you see, that insecurity is even building a house and residing in the very zone that the governor comes from, even in his local government. So when he's saying the governor has performed, they have...
Well, you didn't quite answer my question, Mr. Hejirika. I'm saying that I was Chief Nwanyao that spoke about it on Politics Today just recently as well. But let's allow Mr. Onyeneke have the last words on this as we wind down in 20 seconds.
My last word is that the words of elders are words of wisdom. And Chief Nwanyao has even issued a statement clarifying his stand on this, that now that we have an incumbent governor who is doing well in the person of the single senator of Oposodima, he should complete 8 years, after which power can now move to another zone in Imo State.
He actually described those who have endorsed an Olu person for a second term as ignorant of the principles of that Imo Charter of Equity. Those were his words on the program.
There is no way you can describe the membership of Imo Elders Council cuts across different political parties, different groups.
Well, even at that, it's clear now, Mr. Onyeneke. My sincere apologies. We really have to go now. It's clear, obviously, that even the political class in Imo are very, very divided about this. And I'm wondering how the Imo Charter of Equity will have any life if the political class does not agree. But we have to end this conversation at this point. Fidel Onyeneke, Special Advisor, Imo Orientation Agency, as well as Hejirika Emeka, who is Media Director at Anachono Campaign Organization of the Labour Party. Both men joined us virtually from Owerri in Imo State. Very quick one, conversations from you to this program. Temitope Olodo Esquire says, with the frequency of global conflicts, Nigerian government needs to revisit their evacuation policy, and I believe NANS should explore the idea of creating NANS emergency funds to help in situations like this.
Well, Amos, with this one, the lessons from Ukraine and Sudan on the plight of Nigerian students highlight the urgent need to have a genuine conversation on fixing education in Nigeria. Of course, nothing will be said after this. Well, that wouldn't happen, hopefully.
Festus Akimbewa says the raging war in Sudan between the supporters of the president and supporters of the vice president is a tragedy. Although evacuating as many as 5,500 Nigerians from the country will not be easy, Nigerians trapped in the war-ravaged country must be evacuated as a form of priority before it gets worse. Henceforth, Nigeria's embassies and High Commission abroad must plan for things like this.
And HGK says we'll keep experiencing building collapse because we pay lip service to quality. Developers cut corners at any given opportunity to the detriment of lives. They should know that you cannot cheat the system. Poor quality adds up. Kobo-wise, Naira foolish. Well, that's where we have to leave it for your meals and the program this beautiful Monday morning. Thank you so much for being a part of, well, letting us be a part of your day. Thank you for watching. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
And I'm Neo Taigbe.
I'm Kayode Okikele.
Work resumes tomorrow. I'm not a spoiler. Amaya Makinde, have a wonderful day.